and welcome to You've Got a Point, the Teesside University School of Arts and the Creative Industries podcast. My name is Amy Dover. I am course leader for our wonderful BA illustration course here at Teesside University. I'm also a freelance artist and illustrator, and I have Matt here as well, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Yeah, I'm Matt Hulbert. I'm senior lecturer in design. Fairly recent to the role. I'm principally a commercial product designer, and I just started 9 short weeks ago.
Cool. Well, what I thought would be really nice to chat to you about today is the blurred lines between the kind of disciplines and what you end up doing as a career. So you're new to academia.
Yeah.
What if kind of a synopsis of what you've done in your career and
I
all
think
the different roles?
Well, okay. So I mean, going back, originally I really wanted to be, funnily enough, an illustrator. I was very much into fantasy art, computer game art, and I kind of went down that route and then began doing graphic design. My sister was a graphic designer at the Teesside University. My dad was an interior architect lecturer at Teesside University, so we had a bit of a kind of connection with Teesside. And then I kind of curveballed and ended up doing fine art, photography at A-level, and then a diploma in ceramics. I was kind of a bit scrambled. I didn't know what I wanted to do. And for all that creativity, I ended up being a payroll administrator for 3 years.
Was it in like a creative role, or was it?
Nope. No, it was for care homes. So It was a family business. It was. It wasn't really tickling my creative itch. So I ended up having a look at the Teesside prospectus and saw this thing called product design. I was 21-year-old, I'd never came across that in my life.
What was your perception of what product design meant when you were 21?
Didn't have one, and so many people still don't. I think it's one of those, they say good design's invisible. Like, products are all around us, and we kind of forget that somebody's had them on a screen and somebody's actually designed them. That was the first kind of time I'd ever seen it, and then I applied. The lecturer at the time, Ken Newton, told this great story, which I won't steal off him, but it kind of all, a very short version of it, he built his own boat, sailed it to Portugal, was listening on the radio to a Radio 4 programme about product design, and we're discussing who decided the radius of a toilet seat. And he said that just got him thinking. And then that was that epiphany moment where you realise, everything around us is designed.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
Yeah, freaked me out.
So what was your kind of first job in product design then?
I was quite fortunate, and this is worthwhile for students to really pay attention to. To say thank you to my lecturers, I came in with 6 bottles of wine, to give them a bottle of wine each. And whilst I was in the staff room, a job opportunity came up. An email pinged into Ken, and he said, Matt, would you be interested in this job in Newcastle? And I said, yeah. And he said, should I tell anybody else about it? And I said, no. So I was the only applicant.
It's good that you were nice to your tutors then.
Exactly. So bring wine to your tutors. It's the way to a career. It was as a commercial product designer for a design agency in Newcastle.
That's really cool. So what was the first product you ever worked on?
It was the Purcell bottle.
Mm-hmm.
The little shuttle in the middle that you fill.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and then you can scrub it was that. I just was in charge of the shuttle, and I remember going to, being too scared to ask questions. So I kind of thought, I'll get it, because we had to use cards and we had to get it all sent to China to get prototyped. And I thought, I've got to be at a level here where my boss is he knows what he's doing. So I made some assumptions and then quickly realised that I'd made mistakes. And nearly lost my job in about 2 weeks because I cost close to 10 grand on failed tools.
Oh wow! Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So it took a lot of convincing that I wasn't totally inadequate.
I guess it's much more complicated than you initially realised, kind of designing that sort of thing.
Yeah. I think product design is such a wide ranging subject. You can't be a master of each element. So the university does a great job of giving you like a general understanding of the various pillars of product design. But yeah, I hadn't really tightened up my CAD to the point where I knew how to manufacture plastic and volume.
Yeah.
But I do now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you were getting into product design, was there like one designer that really inspired you?
The one that stands out was Dieter Rams. I don't know if you've heard of Dieter Rams. He's quite popular. He was a Braun designer back in the 60s. And he inspired a lot of the Apple products you see today.
I really like what?
Like the iPad's almost a direct copy of
really?
of a sort of radio piece he had. And there's loads, and I mean the calculator on the app, you know, on the iPhone, that's a direct kind of.
So do you think Johnny Ives has been
absolutely,
very much influenced? Yeah.
There's that thing, isn't there? Good designers. Is it good designers borrow, great designers steal?
Yeah, I think it might be Picasso, but I don't know. I think it's great artists borrow. No, good artists borrow, great artists steal. I think it's a Picasso quote.
He's also said he spent 4 years trying to learn to draw like Raphael, and the rest of his life trying to draw like a child.
Yeah, so we've been teaching life drawing to the students today, and my colleague Leslie, lovely Leslie that teaches on fine art, was talking exactly about that. So we were looking at Picasso's original drawings of when he was learning life drawing when he was really young, and they're amazing and they do look like Raphael, and then he said that he spent the rest of his life trying to learn how to draw like a child. Yeah. It's really interesting.
That being said, do you think, so I was talking to my dad about this, so you know Saatchi, when he had his gallery and he'd invite the likes of Damien Hirst and others to exhibit there, and he kind of birthed this sensationalist movement. For me, I struggle to see that as good art.
Oh, really? Why?
Like Damien Hirst, because he can't draw.
So you think that the process is more important than the concept?
I think if you have the process down, you can do it. Then you can do whatever you want. But if you can't do the process, I think it's harder to sell the concept, if that makes sense.
I think students have to learn the rules so they can break the
rules.
So I think if you learn kind of how you do things in the right way, then after that, then you can break them. And I think that's a really important thing to do.
100%.
But I know as somebody who pretty much draws for a living, I will spend months on one drawing and people are like, yeah, that's nice. And I'll do a really quick drawing in like an hour and people are like, oh my God, that's amazing. And I'll be like, oh my God. Yeah. So I think...
I get that. I totally get that. I mean, I did fine art at A-level and I wasn't obviously nowhere near your level, but to do product sketching, you've got to forget how to draw because you've just got to communicate. So you might be in a factory talking to somebody that doesn't speak English, sketching upside down, saying, can you make it like this? And you're communicating via mark making.
Yeah.
And it's very different to art.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that with our students, I always find that there's a I don't know if I suppose different disciplines, but there's a nervousness about making a mark on a page, that first mark on a page.
Yeah, definitely.
Do you get that in?
Yeah. There's this drawing module that we've been teaching, because it's across lots of different disciplines. All of the students have that kind of fear at first, and it takes them a while to warm up. And I was drawing in front of the students, and I was like, this is nerve-wracking, because I'm the professional, and what if it goes wrong? It's really scary.
That's important to know, isn't it? It does go wrong.
Yeah, no, it does. Some days you can just not draw anything. Yeah. And you're like, why does everything look so terrible? It's not good when you're on a deadline.
I was sat with a student before and going, oh yeah, I see what you're trying to do then. And if you just did it like this, and then I look at my drawing and I think, oh, crap, what am I doing? It's like, and I go, well, not like that. Maybe it takes 2 or 3 goes. You do need to keep practicing.
I think that's maybe like where the kind of difference between maybe like design and fine arts come in, is fine arts much more kind of the concept and design's much more kind of, I'd say kind of for a purpose maybe. I don't know if you agree with that.
Yeah, I guess design, you're communicating more broadly, perhaps, whereas art, you're trying to communicate a very personal message. Is that right?
Well, I don't know, but I think that the interesting thing about the Brit artists in the 90s is a lot of people turn around and say, well, I could have done that, but then the answer is always, well, you didn't.
Yeah, you didn't.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Like with Tracy Emin's bed, for example, that people were outraged by that, but I think it's so clever. And the fact that people are still talking about it today, that just shows that it's got value in it.
Yeah. And don't get me wrong, when I criticise Damien Hirst, I'm sure he's fabulous in many circles. I went to see his exhibition at MIMA years and years and years ago, and it was all his sketching. And I just hoped that he had really good sketching, but he didn't have good sketching.
Well, he couldn't get into art college, could he?
Oh, could he not?
No, he tried many, many times to get in and he couldn't. So that's quite interesting. And he does say that he does a lot of his work for sensation and to make money. But then could that be classed as your artistic practice as well? That's the interesting thing.
Yeah. I do. I appreciate him. I just don't. I wouldn't have him on my wall.
Yeah.
Well, certainly not one of his half animals.
So, because you wanted to chat a bit about the sort of blurred lines in the disciplines, what is the kind of most unusual job that you've done in kind of the design industries? Didn't you kind of work in golf?
I had a golf company. I invented a golf product, yes, which as a non-golfer was really difficult.
So why did you choose to do that?
Because my father's a very keen golfer, and we just wanted to work together on something. And I'd had this idea that you could kind of prototype something quite quickly using modern techniques, and then float it on a crowdfunding and see if you got it picked up, and it did, and I had a successful crowdfunding campaign, and that was it was 6 years. It was a very difficult journey because you had to wear every hat going. You were you were pitching to investors, you were doing financial forecasts, you were doing all the design collateral, the web. I was even above a jewellery shop calibrating all the units and putting them together and shipping them to 18 different countries. So it was tough. Christopher Kane, the
fashion designer.
Yeah. So we did back the year he got signed by Stella McCartney. He was doing London Fashion Week, and he had all these fabulous bow dress designs that he wanted to be made in rubber, but he couldn't work out how to do it, and we kind of 3D CAD'd his designs, some bracelets and things, and we 3D printed them in South Shield and sprayed them up, and they actually went down the catwalk. So
no way, that's
that was
really
good.
cool.
And you look at the group of us as designers, and not one of us was remotely fashionable.
But that's the thing. I think you go into one discipline, but you end up working in so many, don't you?
Yeah. Definitely. I think for me, the most employable attribute going forward, and it's on all of our disciplines, is just creativity, creative thinking, problem solving, understanding the market. If you can do that, you can apply that to anything. And
curiosity, I think, as well. I think there's that great book by Paul Smith, isn't there, that is about you can be inspired by anything, and I think that's really important. And I think students and kind of graduates and people working in the design industries have to watch films and just get inspired, go to exhibitions, everything like that can kind of spark an idea, and I think that's really 100%. Important. I think we're really lucky here because we are kind of like a small art school within a big university, so a lot of the disciplines cross over, and like I've studied and worked at other universities where you can't just go into product and use the technicians there if you're an illustrator or a bit of fashion and stuff, and I think that's really good. We've had like the fashion technicians coming and teaching the illustrators how to do digital embroidery, and I think that's really good, and I think it opens up their CVs and their careers and their kind of opportunities, and I think that's really important. Yeah,
absolutely. And when you say about some of the technicians as well, encouraging those hand skills in students, that's such a big part of it, because there are a lot of design graduates out there, and the design job pool is kind of, I don't want to say shrinking, but the quote unquote product designer of this world is probably shrinking, as maybe the quote-unquote illustrators will, but the kind of hybrid designers that can do anything or do lots of different areas or use their skill set to bring something new to a fairly static traditional industry. There's loads of that opportunity out there.
Yeah. I mean, illustration industry is quite booming, particularly in this country, and people want British illustrators, but you can't just be able to draw anymore. You have to be able to do short form animation.
Yeah.
You've got to turn it. I mean, we're moving into kind of augmented reality illustration and things like that. And that's really key to kind of have those growing skills. But I also think the best students want to learn all those new things and are really kind of curious to learn. I don't know about you, but I've learned so many different bits of technology, digital technology, that's just completely redundant now, but I still quite like learning new stuff anyway.
I know that feeling. I got myself a Wacom when I was in second year uni, which was 2007, and got Sketchbook Pro. And I know that it's like lagging behind the industry standards, but it's just my baby.
Yeah.
I can't get off it.
Would you, if you could do your career all over again, would you go into illustration or would you go into product design, or what would you do?
Tough call. I mean, some of our graduates I've been reaching out to a lot of our alumni, and you've got like Dan Walker, who graduated back in 2003, and he did Batman's Bat Bike, he did all the vehicles for Golden Compass, he did Doctor Who's Sonic Screwdriver. He's done loads of like stuff that I think he's working on Mission Impossible 4 at the moment. So he's really like in there working on cool, exciting product
That's cool.
design.
The illustration students are working on a project which is a little bit grounded in design, illustration for film at the moment.
Right.
Looking a lot at Wes Anderson, obviously.
Right, yeah.
And there's a graphic designer called Annie Atkins, and she does all of the props and graphic design for some of the Wes Anderson films, and we've been looking at that kind of crossover. And
Right.
I think a lot of jobs you think, so obviously teach on graphics as well, that you do that degree and you become a graphic designer. You do illustration, you just do illustrations for like magazines or something. But it's not, there's like so many other exciting things, and that's a brilliant example. What a job.
I know. So if I could go back, I would. I mean, he did the exact same degree as me, but I haven't ended up doing what he's doing. But yeah, I think I loved illustration from an early age. I look back at some of the kind of books I had and the old D&D manuals, and the illustration's not great in them, and I'm thinking I could do better than that now, but the level of quality that's in the industry at the moment is huge. So all the kind of art that I like is beyond me at the moment, so I'd have to go back and really start from scratch.
Yeah, graduates doing all these exciting jobs all over the world, so kind of how do you feel like design is impacting on kind of global industries and kind of global issues then?
Yeah, I mean, I think a few of those alumni, so what I was blown away with, or what sort of really resonated with me, was when I reached out. So as soon as I took the role, I thought, what are people talking about product design? What is it? Like, if you go into the street and say to somebody, tell me about graphic design, they'll kind of have an idea of what graphic design is, fashion the same, interiors the same. Product can often be a little bit of a, I don't know, it's products, but there's that's such a diverse range of things. I really wanted to get an idea of what product design meant to our students, current cohort, and what it meant to, we're 50 years old next year, so 50 years of industrial design in Teesside. Yeah, so I'm really pleased to be a part of that 50-year legacy. And I reached out to 46 of our alumni and spoke with them. Wow. Had like one-on-one Teams calls with them, and you've got people working in education on new creative thinking foundation courses that they're kind of pushed out through Scotland, and they're looking to team and partner with UK universities and colleges. You've got people that have worked over in Guatemala on sort of accessible wheelchairs made out of materials that they can get within some of the poorer areas of Guatemala. You've got Dan Walker, I mentioned earlier, who had done his amazing things in the film industry. Not one of them was a quote-unquote product designer. there were project managers, there were innovators in their industries, they were doing things that were beyond what you would expect from a in-the-box product designer. And I think that's what I would like to kind of convey in our students, that you are going into an industry which is really fluid. It's UX, it's UI design, it's consumer focused. It's now really big drives in sustainability and ensuring that we're doing things that are not damaging the planet. Principally when I was in industry, I was a plastics engineer, and plastics were like a real negative word, but they're actually really great. It's a great product if it's used correctly.
Yeah, it's more the disposing, I guess. And
it's
single
human error.
use is the terrifying one.
Yeah. It can be a great thing if we can use it right, but it's just getting that idea out there that, you know, we don't just draw kettles anymore, we don't just draw drills, we do like anything, you know, being creative and solving problems and just tackling things with a slightly different view is what I'm really into, when I want the students to have that.
So what do you think are the really important skills for graduates to have them when they go into industry? Yes, if adaptability and the changing things is so important, what's important for your students?
I think they have to be willing to kind of go in there without bias. You've got to understand the market you're designing for with a really open mind, and you've got to have a willingness to kind of do things that are, what word am I looking for? It's like, I don't want to say compromise because that's an ugly word, but you've got to have a willingness to appreciate that you're not going to design something that's going to save the world, but we can make lots of little changes and make big improvements.
I think students forget as well that you'll be working in a team as well.
Yeah.
Like that there's lots of different kind of stakeholders in what you're doing. I know that if I do work for a client and I give them like 4 different options, they always pick the one that I don't want to do. Like my favourite never gets picked. And I think sometimes you've got to understand that when you're a student, you're like, right, you have that freedom to go, this is a really exciting project that I want to do and it's all mine. And then you go into industry and you're like, oh, right, okay.
So you're doing it wrong there, because when we did a project with Malaysia One on, it was a lifesaver bottle, which is like a bottle which filters flood water or any kind of stagnant water and you can drink.
Oh gosh, I could have done with that when I was in the jungle in Panama.
Oh, there you go. You would have been fine. Perfect. Yeah. But we did. So we did one for the normal hiker. Then we did one with the army. We did one for humanitarian aid. But we did a 750 litre one for Malaysia. Wow. And they lived in these longhouses, and they'd get all their water from. They'd have frequent rain downpours, and they'd collect it on the guttering from these long houses where you might have up to 70 families living in them. And it'd all go into a still, and they'd drink from it, and if it had stagnated, they'd all get really poorly. So we had to come up with a solution that was using the exact same technology in all the other products, but that would fit into their kind of ecosystem without upsetting anything. And the Malaysia One that we were working with, they'd asked us to dredge, well, they'd suggested there was 3 things we could do. We could dredge water from the river and then have it filtered, and they could use a tap and drink straight from that. There was another one where we'd put in a filtration kind of hub, which again would have to take some trees down. And there was the one we really wanted to do, which was just a really big 750 litre bottle that took all the water from the gutter, held it as it was held before, but then when you drank it, it got rid of all the nasty bacteria.
Yeah.
So you're only adding one little bit and you're not affecting their ecosystem. But the reason I said that you were doing it wrong was because when I drew the 3 proposals, one was all pristine and lovely, the one we wanted. The other one, I just made the grass a little bit brown in places, and so a couple of workmen in the background and a fallen tree, and just
That's a
very
good
subtle
idea.
things to make them go like, oh, that looks a bit rough.
I should just draw the ones I don't want to do just a little bit badly.
Exactly.
Do my sketches.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. Is it the same in illustration with product? Like when you get a client in and they tell you what they want you to do, because we've been doing it so long, you kind of work it out quite quickly, and you do it and you think, right, that's what they want. And then you think, right, but they need 6 concepts. I'm going to have to make up the other 5 now.
It depends on the client. It
Right.
really does. I usually give like 4 ideas.
Right.
Because I have to sketch things out to figure them out anyway, so I would do multiple sketches to figure it out. So then I usually give them like a minimum of 4, but it depends on the clients. And I mean, I did a illustration for beef packaging, which is, you know,
right
as you do, for Target supermarkets in America. It was like Angus beef, and they were very definite. They wanted quite a square-looking bull that was quite dark in the middle with no identification that it was male, kind of unsure. It was very descriptive of what they wanted, so that wasn't very much variation in that. That was just one sketch, yeah.
We did burger packaging as well.
Did you?
Yeah, but I did the plastic bit.
Yeah.
So you could do the wrap and I'll do the plastic.
I'll do the carbonate, yeah. So what is your one best bit of advice to give to a creative student who wants to come and study a creative subject here?
100% it would be to get into the studio and to build that studio culture.
That's good.
I think COVID gave us a real kick, like knocked it out, and yeah, online tuition was great, and I love that that's opened up that opportunity to engage with the students in that way. But there's so much to be said about a studio culture, learning from your peers. You know,
that like first network in design is so important. Yeah.
And it's that. I mean, it's a healthy competitiveness. But I remember there being people that I wanted to get better marks than when I was a student. And they used to put them up on the wall. We'd all have to go and look. I don't know if we're allowed to put them up on the wall.
I don't think we do. No, we're not allowed to do that anymore.
Oh,
yeah.
God.
But I think sometimes you like look at what other people are doing and you go, oh my God, I need to work harder because I've seen how amazing they're doing.
Oh, that's a cool technique. How did you do that? I'll try that. You know, with
copy
markers. Well, yeah. Like you say, great design is steel.
No, that's very important. No plagiarism. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's it. Really, and I try to encourage our students to be in as much as possible. I think you've got things timetabled, but make the spaces your own. Get your own stuff up on the walls and just really live and breathe that environment, because it's probably one of the best places you'll work.
Yeah. So we've been talking about the kind of blurred lines as well. So what do you think is really important for creative students to kind of get inspired by other disciplines and mix with other students from disciplines as well?
Yeah, I mean, well, we've just had Meme a Creative Week, which was a great opportunity for students of all levels to engage in different disciplines and find out a little bit more. We've got the winter school, the summer school. I'd encourage that, potential students or prospective students, look at them and see if there's something that kind of tickles their fancy and just jump in. I think, one thing we've hopefully highlighted in this chat is that cross-discipline is a massive part of the industry. You're no longer master of your own. Bringing it back to my field, and I'm sure you might experience similar things in yours. It used to be that the designer would do this, pass it on to the drafter, would do that, and then pass it on to the toolmaker, would do that. Now you have to understand the full kind of spectrum, the full conceptualization to manufacture. You don't have to be a master in any of it. You just have to know enough to have those conversations. I imagine, you'll be working with authors and bookmakers and... Yeah,
I had a really weird job where I ended up being an illustrator and graphic designer for cakes. Wow. Which meant that you had to understand screen printing, because your illustrations would get screen printed onto cakes and biscuits to go into Marks and Spencer's and Asda. Wow. So that was really bizarre.
Sounds
but
delicious.
That's technically kind of almost product design as well.
It's very.
Because I had to learn CNC and how to turn like Buzz Lightyear into a 3D chocolate mold to be screen printed inside and go on a cake.
There you go. You got it.
A very, very blurred line. Yeah.
But that's it. I think, if you can embrace the other design opportunities around you, you're going to do well, because it's better to know more in a variety of disciplines than it is to just be very focused on one.
And on a less serious note, one thing that's really good is we have like the MEMA parties and exhibition openings, because we've obviously got an incredible international gallery as part of the university as well, which means that we have lovely launch parties with often free food and a drink, which is quite good. And it means that all the disciplines,
all the cheap stuff.
Yeah, all the good stuff. Sometimes they have like cocktails and things as well, which is quite good. Yeah, so that's kind of nice because you get to socialize as well, which is really important, and just make friends in different disciplines. And I think it's really good. I think we're quite privileged to be in quite an interesting environment here at Teesside, because we are very mixed and the students are exposed to a lot. And I think Creative Week is a really wonderful example, because all the students are trying different things and different disciplines and getting to know all the technicians and stuff. The technicians are brilliant here and are so creative with the students. So like, but if you're doing bookbinding or photography and all sorts, I can't even remember half of the things that we did. I took animals drawing, animals?
You took animals drawing, wow.
Took students drawing animals. Animals drawing. I mean, that's quite a skill, but yeah. I took students drawing live animals.
That's the next podcast.
Yes. This might be a good place to stop the podcast now. Don't I? Slightly losing it, yeah. Thank you very much, Matt, for answering our questions and being part of the podcast. And thank you very much for watching our podcast today. This podcast is You've Got a Point, and it is the podcast from Teesside University School of the Arts and Creative Industries. If you'd like to know more or come and chat to us, come and visit one of our open days and we can tell you all about our wonderful courses, or you can visit our website at tees.ac.uk. Okay.
Yay!